an atypical year.
The World Health Organization has declared coronavirus a global pandemic.
Our lives dramatically changed because of COVID-19, and suddenly we had to adapt to a new way of living.
Hell from
We were forced to remain locked at home, to be separated from our friends, our relatives, forced not to go to school. We also had to deal with fear, anxiety, uncertainty. But even though this pandemic occurred under negative circumstances, not everything was negative.
Quarantine life, it ain't all good, but it's all alright.
And now the students from the English Academy are going to share with you some things they learned during this pandemic.
I learned that humanity is very vulnerable because all the world can change in a second.
I've learned that spending time with the family is important. During quarantine, my family and I learned to get along better, to respect each other, to listen to each other, and to spend more time together. Before isolation, we had a good relationship, but now I feel much more comfortable, more listened to, and I feel like I trust them for anything.
I've learned new habits. I didn't know the importance of habits in my life, but now I decided to change habits in my spiritual life, in my feeding, and even in my hobbies.
I discovered that I love doing exercise. I didn't like doing exercise, but because of the quarantine, I began to exercise autonomously and I noticed changes. I have more energy, I feel better, and I even lost some kilos.
This quarantine showed me that no matter the distance or how far you are from friends, if the friendship is true, it will work.
We learned that to take care of ourselves and others, we have to step aside and stay locked up. This pause allowed us to appreciate everything we had before.
I learned that identifying my true friends is very important because it helps me to know who truly values me or brings good things into my life.
This year was about changing things that I was doing wrong for things that are good for me.
I could spend more time with my family. Now we laugh, we play, we enjoy being together.
I learned that I had to organize my times and not wait for someone to tell me what to do in my life. Now, with the online classes, I had to choose what to do, whether to study or not. So I had to get organized in order not to waste my time and fail my exams.
I learned to see at least one positive thing from every bad day or situation.
These months have become important time to help me be a better version of myself.
We learned that we can have an ecological life and make this a better world. At the beginning of quarantine, my family and I made a vegetable plot. Now we have a lot of vegetables like lettuce, chard, carrots and potatoes. I also changed my toothbrush to a bamboo one. Now I have an ecological comb and I use solid shampoo and conditioner to avoid plastic.
I can play volleyball and speak English better.
I proposed myself to read and stay informed. I love reading. I read biographies, science, or any book or webpage that can teach me new things.
I noticed that during this quarantine, lots of people got depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses. So I realized that it is important to develop habits that help us stay calm and meditation, listening to specific type of music, and doing exercise.
I learned that we have to work on our patience every day. You don't know what others are going through, so I try to always be kind and try to understand why people act the way they act.
Before the quarantine, I didn't know how to cook, but now I started making many recipes that I did not know.
I played several board games and also planted potatoes and strawberries.
I've learned to be grateful. This pandemic made me realize how fortunate we are because in spite of not being able to live our normal lives, we have health. We live in a quiet place, we lack nothing and we're happy.
Before the quarantine, I thought a lot about my future, but I learned not to worry about things I can't control.
I understood many things that if it weren't for the quarantine, I wouldn't have realized.
I believe I will miss this free time when the world comes back to normal.
With all the things that have happened, I began to feel that I had to be closer to God.
I also learned to give God more space in my life.
I learned that God's times are perfect, and if He lets bad things happen, it's because His plans are much bigger than mine, bigger than I can possibly imagine.
I started to read more Christian books and the Bible. Now, I also enjoy learning about God's character through nature.
But I trust that God is in control. It is soothing for me.
Setting aside time for God is indispensable. It is incredible how God touches your heart when you seek Him with love.
I think that God is directing everything. We have to trust in Him as He knows what is the best for us.
I trust Him. I trust that the best thing I could ever possibly do for myself is leave everything in God's hands.
There are certainly more lessons that we all have learned since this pandemic started. But if there is something we are sure about, is that, as Romans 2:28 says, we know that to them that love God, all things work together for good.